It's a privilege to pastor Allison Park's first church plant, Crossway Church, and as Pastor Colin mentioned, Pastor Jeff he's speaking at Crossway Church this morning, and we're kind of swapping pulpits, and it's a privilege to do so. Good to see you. Hey, if you get your Bibles out, we're going to spend some time in Hebrews chapter 11 this morning. Hebrews chapter 11. I'm going to be ministering on the topic of faith. It says, "Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see." The first thing we see here is faith is believing when I don't see it. It's believing when I don't see it. How many times have you said or you thought to yourself, I'll believe it when I see it? Well, God says you got it backwards. In His kingdom, you see, believing precedes seeing. That's where faith comes in. It takes faith to believe something before you see something. It takes faith to be sure of what you hope for, to be certain of what you don't see. Church planting requires faith. I can attest to that firsthand. And there's a couple other guys, there's some others that can attest to that as well. There's just so much involved. A few years ago, God gave Pastor Jeff a vision to touch the North Hills through planting churches. You know, he couldn't see it. He couldn't see it at that time. All he had was a word from God. He had a vision that God planted in his heart. He didn't know how this thing was going to come about. He had to just hang on to what God promised and what God said. And he had to believe it in spite of not being able to see it. When God started putting this vision in our hearts and Pam's heart, my heart, we had to step out in faith and trust that God was going to do what He said He would do, what He told us He was going to do, even though we couldn't see it. If you want to please God, you have to take Him at His word. You have to trust Him. You have to believe Him even when you don't see it.